And a very good wet Wednesday evening to you all. Hope you're all well. This is Queen Boudica or Boudica. She can be pronounced either way. It's her statue just facing the Houses of Parliament and Big Ben. But you're going to be joining me on an historical, well, not historical, but a little walking tour along the embankment here. What we are going to go and see first is something that's historically interesting, shall we say. This is it here. The little green object there is a tide measure. When the embankment here was built by Sir Joseph Bazalgette between 1864 and 1870, they wanted a way of measuring the tides, because before the Thames barrier went in, London was very prone to flooding. So this is what this little contraption here is. It's a tide measure. It looks very old and out of use, but it's not. It's updated regularly. All the equipment in there is all electronic and digitised now, and it sends signals every 15 minutes to the Thames barrier to let it know the tide height at Westminster Bridge, so that says whether the barrier needs to go up or not. So yeah, that's that little interesting piece of history. I'll take you down there and have a look. Preferably without falling down the stairs. A bit cold and wet today. I am doing a refilm of this because I did climb up there and try to look through the glass, but it's been frosted and that is very wet, and I slid face first down, so I am okay, but it was somewhat amusing if you like that kind of thing. Yeah, but that's the Thames Tide Measure, and that tells the tide height. Off we go, we're back over this way. And our little tour is going along the embankment here. It has been a hell of a day getting here, and it will be a hell of a day getting back as well, because I just should have checked, and it was my own fault. It is my own fault. The railways are on strike, so what should have been a 25-minute journey by train turned into well over 2 hours by bus, so it wasn't fun. It looks a bit grotty and shitty here, but we will be coming up to some nice stuff along our walk, including Cleopatra's Needle, for anyone that's interested in that. Get a few back from where we've come. That's Boudica or Boudica and Big Ben. This is all part of the railway here. This is ventilation. But under here is a tunnel. And through that tunnel run pipes and stuff. It's part of the embankment. It's a double tunnel. There's one underneath that's for raw sewage, and this embankment was specifically built to deal with something called the Great Stink, which happened in the 1850s. London didn't really have the sewerage system. It didn't have the sewerage system it's got now. So the Thames basically was the sewer. People emptied their stuff into that, and what sewers and drains and gullies they did have drained into it too. I'll just have to point you down a minute. Yes, there are quite a few people about. Yeah. It turned the Thames into an open sewer and caused something called the Great Stink that was so bad that members of Parliament, MPs and such like, even the Prince of Wales, even the Prince Consort, Queen Victoria's husband, refused to go into Parliament because the smell was so bad. People were often seen running in and out with scent-soaked rags held to their noses. They tried everything. They soaked the curtains in lime to try and deter the smell, and then throughout the course of the summer, the Great Stink started making people get very, very ill. So something had to be done. So a commission was set out and many ideas were sent in Sir Joseph Bazalgette, who we will also see along our tour, is the one that won the commission, and this is his embankment. They really went, because at this era it was Egyptomania. Everyone was bang on Egypt and the Egypt stuff, so there's a big Egyptian theme along here, of course, because of Cleopatra's needle as well, so which is what we're going to see further up. There's quite a lot to see along this one. I was toying with the idea of getting the boat back, but it's absolutely packed, so I changed my mind. Yeah, it's looking back where we've come from. Coming up to us here are two very fine war memorials with absolutely amazing bronzes. They were vandalised, which is a bit scummy, but there we are. It's the age we live in. These are all the names, so we'll start at this end. I have no idea how long this walking tour is going to be, by the way, guys and girls. Pause to read any inscriptions. I'll give you one set of panels. I can't obviously stay and focus on everyone, unfortunately, because there's many hundreds of names on this, but we do like to focus on as many as we can. But this is the most amazing part of this monument and memorial, is the bronze, which I'm going to very slowly walk you past and through and zoom into and onto details that I like, preferably without getting too wet, getting my phone too wet, so I'm going to stand with that's better. There's a tremendous amount of detail in this one. I believe this is made by the same artist who made the Queen Mother Memorial along the Mall, the Royal Mall. Last time I was down this way there was a massive big demonstration. This monument was unveiled by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales on Sunday the 18th of September 2005 in the presence of survivors of the few. Never in the course of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. As Winston Churchill said. I may not be the man's greatest fan, but he knew how to slam a speech out, didn't he, Winston Churchill? If you ask someone when he asks me, why the hell don't you like Winston Churchill as a national figure? I suggest you research into Gallipoli and the Great Strike. Lost a relative in the first one and had great-grandfather and grandfather fired on for peacefully striking in the second one. So yeah, that is why I'm not that keen on Winston Churchill, if I'm honest. And then we walk round the other side because there is more to this war memorial. I'm not taking loads of photos on my journey as we go. This is my favourite bit. I love this. I will take some pictures of this, yeah. Because this is, I know it depicts a terrible, awful thing, but just look at the detail, the level of detail that's gone into this. St. Paul's. Hitler wanted St. Paul's destroyed, and they tried to destroy it many times. It stood as a symbol of London's defiance. Something to make us very proud of, the Battle of Britain. Oh look, never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Winston Churchill. I do remember that one. I didn't see it already here, but I remember it. No. This disc thing here, why you see this here, in the war, before radar was, or while radar was being invented and that, in between the wars, shall we say, they developed these discs that could detect, it was like a radar of a kind, it could detect mass amounts of air traffic and stuff in the air, so that's where they come from. There are still a few of them around. And this, interestingly enough, has a keyhole on it. So goodness knows what is in there. We may be able to look in there one day. Possibly. You know me, my little dears. Right, and this is the back side of that monument. More names. Just to focus on but a few. You've got a very iconic structure over there, the London Eye. Someone is very apologetic and complacent. What they've done, I do not know. But yeah, like the architecture all along here is absolutely staggering. Like they've really gone to every single effort to make this, because don't forget, in those days people used to like to promenade and walk in their fancy clothes and basically show off, basically. And that's what this was built as, really, a promenade area. It became frequented by prostitutes and all walks of life, rich and poor, which is what London's about, isn't it? We are going to be coming up to some big roadworks in a minute, so I will pause you and we'll start back up at somewhere that looks a bit prettier. Because if you see that yellow crane there, that's part of, I don't know what they're doing, whether they're building a new embankment thing for boats, a pier for boats, I have no idea. But this is our second big monument structure that we're going to be coming up to now, with the gold thing on top. I'll try and get a bit further over to the river wall if I can, so I don't film too many people without their consent. Yeah, I don't know how long this one will be, about half an hour I should think, something like that. So I'll see. In memory of all the ranks of the Royal Naval Air Service, Royal Flying Corps, Royal Air Force, and those air forces from every part of the British Empire who gave their lives in winning victory for their king and country, 1914-1918. I bear you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. Sorry, mate. And then the bottom one is this inscription is added in remembrance of those men and women of the Royal Air Force and a part of the British Commonwealth who gave their lives 1939 to 45. So, yeah. And we're going to be crossing over there, so I'll pause you now. We have crossed over. And you've got more memorials and stuff along here. Where all the work is going on, it's Blackfriars Bridge there, you see. Got the London Eye. Carry back on with our journey. Which is, just going to point you down a sec. There we are. Yes, there's a lot of work going on over that side, so we've had to cross over here. But that's not too bad because that takes us into a little park, one of London's parks. We're just going to be walking onto Horse Guards Avenue now. The Green Man last. Here we are. Horse Guards Avenue, which will take you onto Horse Guards Parade and whatnot. But this is our little port of call for today, this park, which is where we shall have a stroll through. Which will take us back out onto the embankment at the end of the park anyway. So. Whitehall Gardens.
You're the boss, what can I say, right? And there was something about the way she read it so quickly. Because I was lucky enough to read these books when I was a kid, and I just used to tear through them. When I was in primary school, we used to say things, and I think we should tell them the truth. We would say, I read the first book five times.
Tour going on. Who have we got here? Ah, William Tyndale. That's who we saw in the Abbey. He was executed. He was the first man to translate the Holy Scriptures into English and the Bible into English, and got caught for it. Henry VIII. He escaped, but Henry VIII sent people after him and then brought back. I'll pause you a second, then I'll show you the plot. First translator of the New Testament into English from Greek. Born AD 1484, died a martyr at Vilvoorde in Belgium. Thy word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. The entrance to thy word giveth light. The last words of William Tyndale were, Lord, open the King of England's eyes. Within a year afterwards, a Bible was placed in every parish church by the King's command in English. So Henry VIII killed this man and then went totally back on himself and what this man stood for, and ended up with Bibles in English in the church, which is what that Mr. Tyndale had tried to do anyway. But yeah, he was hunted through Europe as Tyndale, and they would not stop until they caught him. But yeah, there's his statue. A martyr. If Protestants can have martyrs. Yeah, it's a nice little park, this one. You get some decent views out onto the river through it. We'll be coming up to a temple and everything soon. This could be a fairly long walking tour, I'm afraid. So may do it in a part 1 and a part 2, something like that. Gosh, isn't it cold and wet? Erected by a public subscription in 1888, and we're going to see who it is. They're obviously a fairly prominent personage to be getting a statue in here in Whitehall Gardens. Bartle Frere. I must admit to my ignorance and say that I don't know who Bartle Frere is. At least I'm honest. I'll have to take this scarf off in a minute. I'm starting to sweat. I've been cold, warm and cold, and now warm again. But yeah, this is Blackfriars Bridge, But we're coming up to here, and there's a lot of work going on there, as I said, so this is why we had to cross over. But I didn't mind that anyway. But look here, this tree is so old and delicate now that it's being propped up and supported. It's nice to see nature being looked after properly and cared for. That was the 1/4 Big Ben bell, if you just heard it. We've heard that strike twice in our tour so far. Oh wait, 20 minutes. Yeah, it's going to be over half an hour, I should think, because I'm crossing back over here to come to the Joseph Bazalgette Memorial now. Joseph Bazalgette is the architect of the embankment, so we can't ignore him, can we? Trim. There's a couple wagon there. That green man's on. Excellent. We're coming up to the Joseph Bazalgette Memorial now, so I'll pause you. And here we are. Sir Joseph Bazalgette, engineer of the London main drainage system and of this embankment. So as I say, it was this embankment that really cleared up the Great Stink, and we're now going to be walking under Blackfriars Bridge. When I were a young childer, as they'd say up north, my dad was a cabbie, and I remember when we used to drive under this bridge, and there was another bridge as well, and it was full of homeless people, and I mean dozens and dozens of them. You don't really see them like that now. Bit heavy industrial, but there we are. And then we've got the excellent. We're coming up to Cleopatra's Needle now. There's a homeless person sleeping in there, bless them, in that tent. Or it is the tent of a homeless person. Whether there's someone inside in it asleep, I do not know. All you can say is you pity any human being that has to survive outside in this weather. God help them, eh? Gosh, isn't it not a lovely day? We're coming up to another memorial of some description here. And this building over there, which is a bar now, was obviously something very fancy once upon a time. It's a shame there's no plaque on it to say what it was. Yeah. This is what I like about London. Lots of different architecture. W.S. Gilbert, 1836 to 1911, playwright and poet. His foe was folly, and his weapon wit. And off we go. I know someone that's been under this and walked through the tunnel. If anyone knows him, who's on my page also, they'll know exactly who I mean, because he put a picture on of it not long ago. So yes, it's the Uber boat crew. I was thinking of getting the Uber boat home, but it's absolutely Ramos, difficult way it is. And we are now coming up to Queen Cleopatra's Needle. These lights from lamppost to lamppost used to be strung the entire way along the embankment when I was also a young childer. 1870. Yeah, look, I mean every attention to detail, and these are also vents as well for the tunnels and the railway. Some of these things. You can see St Paul's, and a very nice view down the river. We're at 25 minutes now, so I'll get us to Cleopatra's Needle, and then we shall see from there. I want to get home. It's going to take me quite a time because, as I say, the trains are not going, and I am going to hit the buses at rush hour. So when I hit Eastcheap, if the buses are literally rammed to Shittery and back, let's be London Luke, I don't put airs and graces on. If the buses are literally rammed to Shittery and back, I may walk. I'll get a cab. I love the architecture along here, and we're going to be coming up to the most special thing of all, which we're seeing now, which is Queen Cleopatra's Needle, which was an obelisk, probably stolen, maybe bought by the Victorians, probably a bit of both, and bought here to be pride of place as a real feature along the embankment. As you, like when the Victorians did anything, they didn't mess around, shall we say. They didn't toy around, the old Victorians. But yeah, you've got Sphinx. I'll just point you down a minute. The scars that disfigure the pedestal of the obelisk, the bases of the Sphinx and the right hand of the Sphinx were caused by fragments of a bomb dropped in the roadway close to this spot. In the first raid on London by the German aeroplanes a few minutes before midnight on Tuesday the 4th of September 1917. So that's First World War air raids, and all this damage was caused by that, which is very interesting. Oh look, it did cause damage, didn't it? I shall photograph that. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. Don't you just love London? This obelisk, prostrate for centuries on the sands of Alexandria, was presented to the British nation AD 1819 by Muhammad Ali, Viceroy of Egypt, a worthy memorial of our distinguished countrymen Nelson and Abercrombie. Okay. So it was a gift. Well, if I was wrong, then I apologise. Humbly. Diplomatic gifts could sometimes in those days also be yeah, dodgy. Look at the Benin bronzes, I mean they were meant to be got so yeah, they were meant to be obtained legally and above board, shall we say. But look, yeah, you see Queen Cleopatra's Needle. For anyone that hasn't been to London to see this, I am taking photographs. I'm sorry about the rain. Through the patriotic zeal of Erasmus Wilson, Fellow of the Royal Society, this obelisk was brought from Alexandria, encased in an iron cylinder. It was abandoned during a storm in the Bay of Biscay, recovered and erected on this spot by John Dixon, CE, on the 42nd year of the reign of Queen Victoria in 1878. So yeah. There are more plaques. This obelisk, quarried at Cyrene, was Sinai, sorry. I've got water all on my glasses, sorry. I can read. At Sinai, was erected on Heliopolis by Pharaoh Thutmose III about 1500 years before Christ. Lateral inscriptions were dated nearly 2 centuries later by Ramses the Great, removed during the Greek dynasty to Alexandria, the royal city of Cleopatra. It was there erected in the 18th year of Augustus Caesar, 12 BC, so 12 years into Christ's reign on earth. Sorry, 12 years before Christ's reign on earth. This is most interesting. And very damaged as well. I'm going to carefully move along this way. I love these. Do you know, ever since I was a little boy, because my dad, we'd have what was known as a ride out, a Sunday ride out, where we'd get in the cab and come along here. The inscription of Tutmosis are in the centre of each face. The one above records the erection of the obelisk at the time of his 3rd celebration of the Sed festival. The left-hand face and the back contain prayers that he may celebrate many such festivals, and that Tum, the setting sun, may establish his name with increased sovereignty in the great temple. On the right hand face records his offerings on the altar of spirits. On the inscriptions down the sides were added by Ramses II to record his own victories. Yeah, because pharaohs in those days, if they did something big, they'd see a monument of another pharaoh and think, oh, I'll have that, and just bung their name on it. Sometimes carve out the other pharaoh's name. So to posterity, many of those ancient structures, Ramses III was terrible for that, Ramses the Great. He lived into his 90s, which was practically unheard of in those days. And he was lethal for that, absolutely lethal for that, stealing other people's work, plagiarism basically. William Askin, Michael Burns, James Gardiner, William Donald, Joseph Benbow, William Patan perished in a bold attempt to succour the crew of the obelisk ship Cleopatra during the storm of October the 14th, 1877. Are. And these are the old river steps down here, where in the old days you would go down there and you'd wait for a Thames waterman or catch a boat from a Thames waterman, and you'd be upstream, downstream or cross-stream. That was the mass transport network of its day, that was. And look, these great big rings along here, these are for the ships and the boats to moor up. That's what they were for ships and boats to moor up. Down towards London, East London, and the City of London. There's one of our sphinxes. Oh gosh, I nearly got wet. Alright. This will be a part 1 and part 2 possibly. I'll do a part 2. If it turns out to be a decent recording from here to the temple, then that'll go on with it. If not, then you've just had a part 1. And this is the embankment and Queen Cleopatra's Needle. Hope you've all enjoyed this, everyone. Join me for part 2. If part 2 works out well, there'll be a part 2. If not, then hope you've enjoyed this one. Take care all, and thanks for watching.